Emily Carter and I got lost in the mountains. It was supposed to be a simple winter hike, nothing extreme, nothing reckless. Just two friends looking for quiet, snow, and a few days away from everything. But the storm rolled in faster than expected. The trail disappeared under fresh snow. Our phones lost signal. By the time we realized we were circling the same ridge over and over, night was already falling. That was when we saw the cabin. A small log cabin, half buried in snow, with warm light glowing through the windows like a promise. An elderly couple lived there, white-haired, soft-spoken, the kind of people who looked like they belonged in old photographs, Mr. and Mrs. Harris. They didn't ask many questions, just ushered us inside, gave us blankets, and insisted we stay the night. Emily had a fever by then. Her skin burned under my hand, her cheeks flushed an unnatural red. I helped her into the guest bedroom and lay down beside her, listening to the wind howl outside, convincing myself we were safe. Around midnight, there was a knock on the bedroom door. Soft, polite. A raspy old woman's voice followed. "Are you girls asleep? I made some hot soup. It'll help warm you up. Open the door and have a little." I rubbed my eyes, still half dreaming, and pushed myself up from the bed. Suddenly, Emily grabbed my wrist. Her grip was shockingly strong, painful. I sucked in a sharp breath and turned toward her. Her face had gone completely pale, like all the color had drained out of it. Her lips trembled as she forced out two words through clenched teeth. "Don't! Open!" My body went rigid. I grabbed her hand instinctively. Emily's palm was burning hot, feverish, almost scalding. "What's wrong?" I whispered. Before I finished speaking, she pulled me closer, so close I could feel her breath against my ear. It was hot, uneven. "What I'm about to say will sound insane," she whispered, her voice shaking violently. "But you have to listen. The soup has something in it, a sedative. Do not drink it. In a minute, open the door and find an excuse to send them away. Whatever you do, don't let them realize we're suspicious." My heart started pounding. Emily wasn't the type to joke about things like this. And the fear in her eyes, raw and filtered, wasn't something you could fake. I reached out to touch her forehead. "Emily, did you have a nightmare?" "No." She slapped my hand away, her voice suddenly too loud. Outside, the movement stopped. "What's going on in there?" Mrs. Harris called. "Sweetheart? Are you all right? Why haven't you opened the door yet?" The doorknob rattled. Emily and I stared at it, frozen. Her lips quivered. Sweat mixed with tears as they slid down her face. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, forcing calm into my voice. "It's okay, I locked the door. They can't get in." She pressed herself against me, trembling. After a few moments, her breathing finally slowed. In the silence, she whispered, "Alex, do you remember what I just told you?" I hesitated, then nodded. That was when we heard it. A metallic jingle, keys. They were trying to open the door. Emily's face drained of color again. She shoved me away and whispered urgently, "Just remember, that's enough. Now open the door." Before I could argue, she slipped back under the covers, pulling the blanket over her head. I stood up, walked to the door, unlocked it, and opened it in one smooth motion. "Mr. Harris?" "Mrs. Harris," I said calmly. "Is something wrong?" Mrs. Harris froze when she saw me. In her hand was a small ring of keys. Mr. Harris quickly stepped in, resting a hand on her arm. "We were worried," he said smoothly. "We knocked for a while and didn't hear anything. Thought something might have happened." I forced a smile. "Sorry about that. My friend had a bad nightmare." Took me a while to calm her down. Mrs. Harris peered past me into the room. A dim lamp was on, casting soft shadows. The blanket on the bed rose and fell in a shape that clearly looked like a sleeping person. Her shoulders relaxed. She smiled. "That's good," she said. "As long as you're both all right." She lifted a bowl toward me. Steam curled up from the dark liquid inside. "I made some soup," she said gently. "Still warm. Drink it while it's hot." I looked down at the bowl, and for reasons I couldn't explain, a deep sense of unease settled in my stomach. Mrs. Harris held the bowl out to me with both hands. The steam curled upward, thick and fragrant, carrying a sharp hint of ginger. The liquid inside was dark brown, too dark to tell what it really was. Soup, she'd said. Some old herbal recipe. It's just a folk remedy, she explained quickly, as if reading my thoughts. Ginger herbs helps fight the cold. You girls were out in the snow for hours. That kind of chill settles deep in the body. I nodded, keeping my expression polite, neutral. Thank you. You've already done so much for us, letting us stay, making food this late. I reached for the tray, planning to take it back into the room. I'll bring it inside, I said. When my friend wakes up, we'll drink it together. Mrs. Harris shook her head at once, still smiling. No, sweetheart. This needs to be drunk hot. That's when it works best. If your friend needs some later, I'll make another pot in the morning. Her eyes didn't leave my face. The message was clear. Drink it now. A quiet alarm went off in my chest. I lowered my gaze, pretending to hesitate. Beside her, Mr. Harris spoke for the first time. What's wrong? He asked. You don't want it? His tone was casual, but there was something underneath it, something sharp, dangerous. I looked up, quickly adjusting my expression, forcing a small, embarrassed smile. It's just, I really hate ginger. Even the smell makes my stomach turn. Mrs. Harris's smile didn't fade. That won't do, she said gently. Health comes first. And there's no hospital anywhere near here. If you get sick too, what are two old people like us supposed to do? There was no room left to refuse. I let out a soft sigh as if giving in. All right. I took the bowl, pinched my nose shut, and drank. I swallowed fast, forcing it down in large gulps, barely tasting anything past the heat and bitterness. The soup burned all the way down. I didn't stop until the bowl was empty, until I could tilt it and see nothing but the pale ceramic bottom. Only then did Mr. and Mrs. Harris exchange a glance. A smile passed between them. Well, Mr. Harris said, sounding satisfied, it's late. We won't disturb you girls anymore. I nodded, returning the bowl. Good night. Thank you again. The door closed with a soft click. I didn't move. I waited until I heard their footsteps fade down the hall. Then I locked the door, twice. Emily sat up in bed immediately, her breathing uneven. You drank it? She asked. I nodded. You heard them. If I'd refused any harder, they would have known we were onto them. Her face twisted in panic. I told you not to drink it. I told you something bad would happen. I raised a hand quickly. Calm down. You said it yourself. It's not poison. Just something to knock us out. She stared at me, searching my face. Do you have a way to deal with it? I shook my head. Not really. Just one option. I turned toward the bathroom. Before it kicks in, I said quietly, I'll get it out. Moments later, the sound of retching echoed through the small cabin. By the time I came out of the bathroom, my stomach felt hollow, raw, like I'd scraped it clean from the inside. My eyes burned, my throat stung, and the girl staring back at me in the mirror looked worse than exhausted. She looked hunted. Emily was sitting upright on the bed when I stepped back into the room. Her knees were pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She was shaking not from the cold. When she saw me, she swallowed hard. You drank it? She said again, quieter this time. I threw it up, I replied. As much as I could. She didn't relax. I sat down beside her. Emily, now you need to tell me. What's really going on? For a long moment, she didn't answer. Her eyes darted around the room, lingering on the door, the window, the shadows in the corners. It was like she was afraid the walls themselves might be listening. Finally, she spoke. Alex, do you believe in second chances? She asked softly. I frowned. What kind of question is that? Not the metaphorical kind, she said. I mean real ones. I waited. She took a shaky breath. You're going to think I'm crazy. I know you will. But what I'm about to tell you already happened. Tonight, my pulse picked up. Emily stared down at her hands. In the other version of tonight, we drank that soup. My chest tightened. Emily, just listen, she cut in sharply. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out anyway. We woke up in the basement. No windows. No light, just concrete and darkness. She squeezed her eyes shut. I don't know how long we were down there. Time didn't make sense anymore. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Every time I woke up, she continued, he was there, Mr. Harris, touching me, doing things I couldn't stop. When he was done, she'd come in. Emily's voice cracked. Mrs. Harris, she hated me. Beat me? Said I was trying to steal her husband. I reached for her, but she flinched violently. She wouldn't let me pass out, Emily whispered. If I fainted, she'd throw salt water on me until I woke up, again and again. Her breathing grew uneven, shallow. I couldn't take it anymore, she said. One day when he got close, I bit him hard right here. She lifted a trembling hand to her own neck. He went crazy, grabbed a hammer. She looked up at me then. He killed me. The room felt too small, too tight. I wrapped my arms around her before she could pull away, holding her firmly this time. Emily, what about me? I asked quietly. What happened to me? She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. I don't know. When I woke up again, I was alone in the basement. You were gone. I didn't know if you were dead or if they'd taken you somewhere else. She buried her face against my chest. I was so scared. I didn't know what else to do. I closed my eyes. The rational part of my brain screamed impossible. Time loops, rebirth, none of it made sense. But Emily wasn't lying. I'd known her long enough to recognize fear when I saw it. And this was real terror, carved deep into her bones. Okay, I said finally, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. Whether it's real or not, we're not drinking anything they give us. She nodded desperately. And if what you're saying is true, I added, then we're not victims this time. Emily looked up at me, hope flickering weakly in her eyes. I won't let them touch you, I said. Not again. Morning came wrapped in white. The storm hadn't stopped. If anything, it had gotten worse. Snow piled high against the windows, thick and relentless, swallowing the world outside. When I opened my eyes, it felt like the cabin had been sealed off from everything else, cut loose from time. I shook Emily gently. Wake up. She stirred, groggy but alert the second she saw my face. We didn't say much. Whatever we did next, we did together. When we stepped into the living room, breakfast was already waiting. 4 bowls sat neatly arranged on the table, steam rising from each one. Warm, pale porridge. Oatmeal, maybe. Simple. Harmless looking. Mr. and Mrs. Harris were busy in the kitchen, moving with the calm efficiency of people who had done this 1,000 times before. Oh, Mrs. Harris said when she noticed us. You're up early. I was hoping you'd sleep a little longer. I glanced at the clock. Just after 6. I thought I'd make breakfast, I said lightly. Didn't expect you to beat me to it. Mr. Harris chuckled as he carried the tray out. Old people don't need much sleep. He set the bowls down carefully, lining them up like something rehearsed. I looked at Emily. She understood immediately. What are you standing there for? I said casually. Go grab some spoons from the kitchen. Emily hesitated just long enough for it to feel natural, then nodded. Right, I'll be right back. Mrs. Harris stood up. I'll help. No need, I said quickly, stepping in front of her. It's a small thing. Mrs. Harris paused, glanced at her husband, then slowly sat back down. Seconds later, a sharp crash rang out from the kitchen. Glass shattered. Emily screamed. Mrs. Harris shot to her feet. What happened? Both of them rushed toward the kitchen. The moment their backs were turned, I moved. My hands were steady as I switched the bowls, just a simple shift, barely noticeable. The porridge looked exactly the same in every dish. Steam still rose. Nothing gave it away. By the time they returned, Emily was standing frozen amid broken shards, apologizing over and over. I'm so sorry, she said, voice shaking. I didn't mean to. It's fine, Mrs. Harris said dismissively. Just a plate. Don't worry about it, Mr. Harris nodded. Eat before it gets cold. We sat down. No one spoke. The only sounds were spoons against ceramic and the quiet crackle of the fireplace. I ate slowly, forcing myself to swallow despite the tight knot in my stomach. Emily barely touched hers, playing with the food just enough to look convincing. Minutes passed. Then Mr. Harris stiffened. His spoon clattered against the bowl. His face drained of color, turning an ugly shade of gray. Mrs. Harris swayed, grabbing the edge of the table. What's happening? They collapsed almost at the same time. The sound of their bodies hitting the floor echoed through the cabin. Emily stared at them, eyes wide. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew they put something in it." "I didn't know," I said honestly. "I just wasn't taking chances." I rushed to the storage room and came back with rope. My hands moved fast, tight knots, no hesitation. When they were bound, unconscious, and helpless, the cabin felt different, quieter, heavier. For the first time since we'd arrived, they weren't the ones in control. Emily let out a shaky breath. "So it wasn't just the soup?" "No," I said, staring down at the two figures on the floor. "It never was." And for the first time, I knew for certain her warning had been real. I didn't waste time. While Emily stayed in the living room to keep an eye on them, I went straight for the bedroom Mr. and Mrs. Harris used. The wooden door creaked as I pushed it open. The room was neat to the point of being sterile, simple furniture. Carefully made bed, nothing out of place. Too clean. I searched drawers, closets. Under the bed, nothing, no journals. No photos, no personal clutter. It felt less like a place someone lived in and more like a set. "Emily," I called quietly. "Try somewhere else?" She didn't answer. I stepped back into the hall and found her standing motionless in front of a small desk by the window. Her back was rigid, her shoulders tense, like she'd been frozen mid-breath. "Emily?" She didn't turn around. I followed her line of sight. On the desk sat a framed photograph. The image was old, yellowed with age. A young man and woman stood side by side, smiling stiffly at the camera. Their clothes were outdated. Their expressions too composed, like they'd been told exactly how to look. I studied it carefully. They looked ordinary, harmless. "What is it?" I asked. "Do you recognize them?" Emily's voice came out hoarse. "Look at their faces," she said. "Really look." I leaned closer. At first, I didn't see it. Then something shifted. Maybe it was suggestion, maybe fear. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. Their eyes too cold, too knowing. "I remember this photo," Emily whispered. "Months ago, when we were researching that missing persons case, the one from this mountain range. Over 40 years ago." My stomach dropped. "You're saying it's them," she said firmly. "I'm sure of it. That doesn't make sense," I argued. "If they're still alive, why stay here? Who lives in the mountains for 40 years? Emily's gaze flickered just for a moment. Then she nodded toward the man in the photo. "Look at his arm." I turned the frame slightly, studying it again. In the faded image, just beneath the sleeve, was a dark mark, a curved shape. Easy to mistake for a shadow. "A tattoo," Emily said. Back then, I thought it was a stain on the photo. I didn't respond. I went back to the living room. Mr. Harris was still unconscious. I rolled up his sleeve. A black snake coiled around his arm, its head biting its own tail. Emily sucked in a breath. "It really is them." Something clicked into place. The pieces didn't fit neatly, but they fit enough. If I were hiding something for decades, I wouldn't keep it where anyone could find it. I'd keep it close. Somewhere I could watch. My eyes drifted to the window. Outside, half buried in snow, sat a small woodshed. "Stay here," I told Emily. "If either of them wakes up, call me. Immediately." She nodded, pale but steady. The snow outside was knee-deep. Each step felt heavy as I trudged toward the shed. A thick lock hung from the door. A woodshed didn't need a lock. That was confirmation enough. I kicked the door. It rattled, but held. I scanned the area and spotted an axe leaning against the wall. I lifted it and brought it down hard. Once, twice. The lock snapped and disappeared into the snow. Inside, the air was damp, heavy with the smell of raw and fresh wood. Logs were stacked high, filling most of the space. At first glance, there was nowhere to hide anything. I stepped farther in, listening. The floorboards creaked. I stomped once, solid, then I moved the logs aside. In the far corner, a plank was loose. I knelt and tapped it, hollow. My heart started racing. I pried it open with a crowbar buried among the wood. The board lifted, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. I didn't hesitate. The light switch was just inside. I pulled it. The bulb flickered on. The smell hit me: first rust, decay, something sour and unmistakably human. The basement was small, concrete walls. And on the left side, tools, rows of them. Metal gleamed under the dim light. Hooks, chains, implements I didn't have names for. Even the ones that looked harmless were lined with sharp spikes. My legs felt weak. On a metal rack nearby were personal items. Women's things, hair ties, earrings, scarves, necklaces, trophies. Among them sat a framed document, a college acceptance letter. Rachel Liu admitted to the School of Journalism enrollment date, September 1983, 40 years ago. I stared at it, breath shallow. This wasn't a single crime. This was a pattern. And suddenly, Emily's story didn't sound impossible anymore. The scream came from the cabin, Emily's scream. It sliced through the snow like a blade. I dropped the crowbar and ran. The axe was still in my hand when I reached the door. I burst inside and froze. Mr. and Mrs. Harris were standing in the living room, their backs to me. In their hands were kitchen knives. The blades caught the firelight wet red. Emily was pressed against the far wall, blood seeping through her sleeve. When she saw me, her shoulders sagged in relief, but her eyes stayed sharp, alert. "Where's your friend?" Mr. Harris asked her cautiously. "Did she run?" "No," Emily said quickly. "She just stepped outside. She'll be back in a second." Mr. Harris's voice dropped. "That's unfortunate. Two of you at once is harder to deal with." He exchanged a look with his wife. They started toward Emily. Something cold settled in my chest. I stepped forward. The axe came down before either of them could turn around. It struck Mr. Harris square in the head. The sound was thick and final. He collapsed without a word, eyes wide in disbelief, body hitting the floor with a dull thud. "He didn't move again," Mrs. Harris screamed. She dropped to her knees beside him, sobbing, clutching his body. "What have you done?" she wailed. "We gave you shelter, food, warmth, and this is how you repay us?" Her eyes snapped up to me, full of hatred. "If I'd known," she spat, "I would have let you freeze out there." Emily stumbled over and hid behind me, shaking. I laughed softly. "Shelter?" I said. "If we hadn't been careful, we'd be chained in your basement right now." Mrs. Harris's expression flickered. "You went down there," she whispered. "How many people?" I asked. "How many did you kill?" She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. "I lost count," she said calmly. "Those women deserved it, seducing my husband, trying to steal him." "That's a lie," I snapped. "He hurt them." Her face twisted with rage. "He loved me. He said killing them would make me happy." I didn't hesitate. The axe fell again. Her skull cracked open like rotten wood. The room went silent. Emily stared at the two bodies on the floor, breathing hard. "Alex? You killed them." "What if the police, they're murderers?" I said. "And we acted in self-defense. We dragged the bodies to the shed. They were heavier than I expected. The basement swallowed them whole. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the axe across my knees, staring at the spot where they'd died. If Emily was right, if this place reset itself, I needed to see it with my own eyes. Emily insisted on staying with me. We shared the couch, wrapped in blankets, the fire crackling low. Sometime before dawn, exhaustion hit me like a drug. A crushing weight pressed down on my eyelids. I fought it, lost. When I woke up, someone was shaking me gently. "Sweetheart," Mrs. Harris said, "why are you sleeping out here? You'll catch a cold." I bolted upright. The living room was spotless, no blood. No broken furniture. No bodies. Mr. Harris stood behind her, alive, whole, smiling. My mind went blank. Emily stirred beside me and gasped when she saw them. "They're back," she whispered. Mrs. Harris tilted her head, concern painted perfectly across her face. "Are you girls feeling all right?" "You look pale." That was when I understood. Killing them wasn't enough. This house didn't let them die. After that morning, we stopped pretending. We tried to leave. We packed what little we had, waited for a break in the storm, and walked straight into the snow. We followed our own footprints for hours until the trees thinned, the wind shifted, and the cabin appeared in front of us again. Same angle. Same smoke rising from the chimney. Same door. We tried different directions. Different times of day. Once we ran until our lungs burned and our legs gave out. Every road led back. We tried something worse. We tried dying. The details blurred together after the first time. Pain. Darkness. Then waking up again cold, alive, unchanged back inside the cabin. The same morning, the same polite voices. The same breakfast waiting on the table. Each failure stripped something out of us. Emily cried more often. Her hands shook even when she slept. I caught her staring at nothing, lips moving like she was counting days that no longer mattered. And then I saw my reflection. The mirror over the sink didn't lie. Dark circles carved deep into my eyes. Lines at the corners of my mouth that hadn't been there before. My skin looked dull, stretched thin, like it had been worn down. Emily noticed it too. "You look different," she whispered one morning. So did Mr. and Mrs. Harris. They were changing, but in the opposite direction. The wrinkles on Mrs. Harris's face softened overnight. Her hair darkened, strand by strand. Mr. Harris's back straightened. His movements grew quicker, steadier, younger. That was when I understood. At breakfast, Mrs. Harris reached across the table with a bowl. "Eat," she said kindly. "You need your strength." I knocked it out of her hands. "What are you doing to us?" I shouted. "This place, this house, what is it?" She smiled. "Clever girl," she said. "You figured it out." Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair, watching us like a spectator. "No one can leave this house," he said calmly. "Not unless there's someone to take their place, replacement." The word echoed in my head. "You think we wanted to stay here?" Mrs. Harris snapped suddenly. "This place is a prison. 40 years trapped in snow and silence. We only survived because others came." Emily swayed beside me, suddenly unsteady. Greenish vines crept along the floor, wrapping slowly around her ankles. My heart dropped. "You're stealing our time," I said. "Our lives." Mrs. Harris's eyes shone with excitement. "Borrowing," she corrected. "And soon it will be complete." I grabbed Emily, shaking her. "Stay awake. Don't sleep." The vines climbed higher knees, waist, chest tightening like living restraints. No matter how many I cut away, more grew back. Mr. Harris checked the clock on the wall. "Almost done," he murmured. Emily's eyes fluttered. "Alex!" "I'm tired." Panic flooded me. If the process finished, we would become them. And they would walk free. That was when I made the decision. If the house was a cage, then I would burn the cage down. The fire caught faster than I expected. The curtains went up first, flames racing across the fabric like they'd been waiting for permission. Heat flooded the room, sharp and suffocating. Smoke curled toward the ceiling, thick and black. Mrs. Harris screamed. "What are you doing?" she cried, rushing forward. "This won't change anything. You'll die too." I didn't look at her. Emily was barely conscious now. The vines had wrapped around her completely, creeping over her shoulders, her neck, brushing her cheeks like living fingers. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight against my chest. "I promised you," I whispered. "I'm getting you out of here." Mr. Harris tried to reach the door. He grabbed the handle and yanked. Nothing happened. He pulled again, harder this time. The door rattled but didn't open. Panic finally broke through his calm. Mrs. Harris stumbled back as the flames climbed the walls. "No," she muttered. That's not how this works. The house isn't supposed to burn, but it was burning. The fire roared louder, swallowing furniture, crawling up the beams, cracking the wood with sharp, violent pops. The smell of smoke mixed with something older, damp earth, rot, decay like the house itself was screaming. I felt the heat blistering my skin. Emily stirred weakly in my arms. Her eyes fluttered open just long enough for her to look at me. "You're really doing it," she murmured. "There's no other way," I said. "If this place can't exist, neither can the loop." The vines tightened once more, then stopped. They went limp. The flames surged, collapsing the ceiling in a shower of sparks. Mr. and Mrs. Harris backed away, trapped, their faces twisted with terror as the house finally turned against them. I closed my eyes and held Emily tighter, then everything went dark. Cold hit me first, sharp, clean. I coughed violently, lungs burning, snow filling my mouth. Hands grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. "Hey, stay with me." I forced my eyes open. A man in a heavy jacket hovered above me, his breath visible in the air. Behind him, several others were rushing toward us. "You're lucky," he said urgently. "Another hour out here and you'd be dead." "Where are we?" I croaked. "Near a hiking trail," he replied. "We've been camping nearby for days." Never saw a cabin out here before. My heart skipped. I turned my head. Emily lay beside me, pale but breathing. Her eyelashes fluttered. She opened her eyes. Snow reflected in them. I laughed a broken, breathless sound and pulled her closer. "See?" I whispered. "I told you." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "You did," she said. "You really did." There was no cabin behind us, no smoke, no footprints leading back, no house waiting to reset itself, just snow and sky. And the sound of people calling for help. For the first time, the morning didn't feel like the beginning of the same day all over again. The loop was gone. We were free,